All right, we are live, I hope. Welcome, everybody, to a special live stream on Greyhawk Grognard. We have with us the folks from Baldman Games, who are one of the three outfits that's helping run the Legends of Greyhawk living campaign. We've had them on before, and I am pleased to have them on again. I would ask all of you to introduce yourselves.
You start, Savannah.
All right, I'm Savannah Houston McIntyre. I'm the creative director of Baldman Games. And I have a little bit to do with all of the regions, just making sure they flow cohesively and get out on time.
And I am Eric Mingy. Beg your forgiveness. I came home from Page and brought the con crud home with me. Trying to get past that one. I have my tea ready to go. I am the lead designer for the regions of Old Ferrand, which will include Fergandi, Valuna, and Verbobank. And that will especially include the Temple of Elemental Evil, which I am looking forward to.
Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you. My name is Shu, and I am based in Sydney, Australia, and I am responsible for the special region known as Castle Greyhawk.
Oh dear. Wait, Castle Greyhawk, not Greyhawk Ruins? Is there a significance to the nomenclature there that I should read something into?
Well, they both refer to the same thing, unless, of course, you think broader than that and think about whether there are generic runes all across the Greyhawk setting that could fall into that category. But for the purposes of going back in time to a particular 3rd edition publication, yes, it is the same thing.
Oh, excellent. Because Hi,
hello.
We'll get to it in a second. The only reason I ask is because in the old living Greyhawk, they actually had modules that connected to Greyhawk Ruins, the published 2nd edition module, and they used the nomenclature of Greyhawk Ruins. That's the only reason I'm being pesty about that. So, Amanda, if you could introduce yourself and let us know what your role is in the whole Legends of Greyhawk thingy.
Yeah, hi folks. I'm Amanda Leftridge. I'm the assistant lead for the Realms of Old Ferrand, working with Eric Mengi here.
Excellent. And before we get going on what might be coming up soon, Eric, I know you were at Page, the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, and you guys were running a bunch of Legends of Greyhawk games that weekend. Can you give us a quick rundown of how that went? And I want to hear what that particular event was like, because I was there too. I was a vendor. I'm a vendor and a guest, and I'm on staff. But I would love to hear what was going on in that specific game area, because you guys had your own little section carved out. Please let it. How did that go, and what was going on?
I don't actually know if I can speak to that directly, because I came as a civilian this time. I wanted to go to Page just to play games that I don't get to play locally. So I played exactly one game of Dungeons & Dragons all weekend, and it was 3rd edition, run by Eric Boyd. But what I understand, Baldman Games was there, and what I understand they did is they were running the ones from MagicCon, which came out last February. And these were the first 3 adventures that we put out that were set in the Hamlet area.
Okay.
Is that correct, Savannah?
That's correct, yes. So we had Hamlet, Nulb, and I'm not sure if we had Moat House, but we might have.
Those were our 2 introductions that were me and Sean trying to interpret the old Village of Hamlet adventure, T1. Into a convention setting and kind of chopping it up into a 3-hour segment that people can get through in a reasonable amount of time.
Now, Hamlet is one of my all-time favorite things. If you've watched my channel, you know I've done deep dives into all kinds of the most obscure arcana about Hamlet and the temple and the elder elemental god, and this is my passion. So I'm gonna have to drill you a little bit about that.
We must say that
you,
because when I wrote that adventure, it came in 4 times as long as it should have, and I had to cut about 30,000 words out of it because chunk, we can't have that. Not enough time. Chunk, this guy's cut.
Well, tell me, I want to hear about this. This is exactly what I want to hear about. What got chunked?
Anything that was not the inn. It turned out that whenever you introduce all those wonderful personalities at the inn, like Furnock and the others hanging out there, and Elmo, there's just not enough time to go outside of the inn in Hamlet. That could eat up your whole 3 hours.
Traders and all that good stuff that are actually spies.
Actually, that was something else I chunked. Because I assumed you all had read T1 and knew the secrets of the traders. So that had to change.
See, if it was me, I would have swapped things around, and like the traders were good, but somebody else, like the miller, was the actual plant from the temple. So yeah, exactly.
Really? Don't tell. Just tell.
I have run Village of Hamlet so many times myself because I ran it like 3 or 4 times before Temple of Elemental Evil came out. And here's my I'm sorry, I'm going to dominate the conversation just until you guys get into it, but I actually bought the first ever copy of Temple of Elemental Evil at Gen Con. And I was first at the door, and I ran over the TS because it wasn't available on Friday. It was only available on Saturday. And I ran to the table, and Gary Gygax signed it for me, and the whole thing. I had it, and I bought a second one that weekend so I wouldn't spoil that one. So I had one that I could open up and read. And years later, I'm like, oh, I'm never going to play D&D again, and I sold it for a pittance. And yes, I know. Yes, Amanda, I make that same face every time I think about this. And if the person who bought it is watching this, I will buy it back from you at a premium, but I want that thing back. Anyway, so yeah, that's my Temple of Elemental Evil tragedy story. So for folks who might not be really aware of what's going on, give us some idea of what the whole Legends of Greyhawk thing is about.
So Legends of Greyhawk is the new organized play campaign being sponsored by Wizards of the Coast. And the premise is, comparing it to AL, it's a much slower level progression and much more restrained on magic items. And ideally, you should be able to take the same character to conventions, to stores, to libraries, anywhere that Legends of Greyhawk will be able to be run.
Excellent. So it's like the old Living Greyhawk, but kind of new, in the new style.
Very much, yes.
Excellent, excellent.
And adapted for convention first play. So we expect it to be a big onboarding experience, bringing a lot of new players into Greyhawk for the first time.
So I know that they've introduced Greyhawk as the sample campaign in the new DM's guide. So you say bringing players into Greyhawk for the first time. How much of what you're doing is with the expectation that they're going to have read at least that much stuff? Or are you just expecting they're coming in cold and you have to, inaugurate them into the setting?
Honestly, I would say it's an even mix. So we really try to aim for really honoring the old lore so that, those old players feel like they're coming home, but making it open enough that someone can join it for the first time and not feel lost in the world.
So, I mean, for obvious reasons, I'm a huge Greyhawk nerd, and I have done many videos myself about differences between Greyhawk and other settings. What do you guys do specifically to differentiate Greyhawk from Forgotten Realms or Ravenloft or Dark Sun or anything else? What makes your living campaign specifically Greyhawk as opposed to just being generic D&D? And this is open to everybody.
I answered a similar question last time, so let's see if any of the other three want to pitch in for this one.
Greyhawk has its roots in mid 20th century pulp fiction. And the old, was it Appendix N?
Yep.
So and also the style of writing that Gary Gygax put together whenever I'm working on this, I like to go back and reread Gygax's adventures and see how he phrases things and to get that feel for it. And also it's lean more into the swords and sorcery, and as opposed to the high fantasy of the Forgotten Realms. And so everything, therefore, should be, in my opinion, a little bit grittier, a little bit jankier, but at the same time, there's a nice sliver of camp running through Greyhawk, which we can sometimes give homage to because they worked in pop culture references back in the day.
Anagrams, puns.
Oh, God, yes. And so, but at the same time, it was, well, we're dealing with the Temple of Elemental Evil. I devoured the Frank Mentzer, Gary Gygax T14 backwards and forwards, trying to get a feel for it and embrace the high Gygaxian language and the setup and how these rooms are put together. And it's whereas the Forgotten Realms might be more story-oriented, I think the Greyhawk is much more exploration-oriented.
Oh, dude, I have been that has been my theme on my channel for the last week or three. The change in the game from exploration to storytelling. So I'm begging you, expand on that.
Oh well, I honestly think it should be renamed. I use a different term for it rather than exploration. I use the term discovery, because exploration to me implies geographic exploration, but discovery could be anything. It could be not just exploring the hallways in the old temple. It could be like finding out what this weird room is about and how you have to interact with it. Things aren't spelled out. You have to poke at things and see if you can get it to respond. Secrets are there for you to discover. They have to be discovered. Secret doors have to be discovered. We got one of our adventures back, and I said, not enough secret doors. At about 20. And I went in and drew in all the secret doors and how I wanted all of them to connect. And it's that feeling of discovery and into the unknown that I find very Greyhawk. And whether or not it's the corridors or it's uncovering plots or dealing with demons, it's always a style of discovery.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So Shu and Amanda, I feel like we're dominating the conversation. I want to specifically invite you guys to chime in. What is it about Greyhawk that you find particularly compelling? Because you're obviously, you're working on a Greyhawk specific project. What do you like about Greyhawk? And Amanda, especially because you're obviously younger than I am by a year or two, and just a little. You're also on mute, so just so you know.
Maybe 1 or 2 years, perhaps.
but I would love to hear from both of you about what you like about Greyhawk, particular compared to other settings.
Yeah, I may be a little younger than you, but I
have dice older
grew up
than you.
with. You what?
I have dice that are older than you.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe not. I'm not as young as I look. There. But I grew up with a lot of high fantasy and also sword and sorcery in my background. My mother was a big fantasy fan and science fiction fan. She was a librarian, so my life was just devouring as much of that and as many different flavors of that as I possibly could get my hands on when I was yay high. And the movies that I consumed were in a similar vein. One of the only things that we actually got along on were our taste in fantasy. One of my favorites growing up was Krull, right? Krull and I suppose that you could throw in the Dark Crystal, any number of the like darker, super interesting and like expansive.
Hawk the Slayer.
What's that?
Hawk the Slayer.
I haven't seen that one. I know.
All right, you have homework.
I love when people give me homework. Thank you.
You have homework right now.
That up
Seek
later.
it out. It is.
I haven't heard anyone mention Krull in a while.
Krull's going. The Sword and the Sorcerer is another.
Yep.
Just top notch. But yeah, Hawk the Slayer. I'm going to guess that Eric and Savannah know what I'm talking about with Hawk the Slayer. So, but I'm sorry, I had to interject. Go on.
It's all good. My favorite stories are the unlikely hero who is going up against something so much bigger than them, right? And really any setting that is so deep and expansive and gives you opportunities to really dig in and even just alludes to so much more that you could ever possibly know. That's the stuff I like. So this is the perfect setting for me, actually.
That's wonderful. Shu, same question. What do you find interesting about Greyhawk as opposed to other settings?
Okay, well, to come back to that question and also the question you asked earlier about what distinguishes Greyhawk from the Forgotten Realms and Ravenloft and everything else. So we do know that for some of these settings, they do have a very distinct identity to them. Ravenloft, for example, is more horror, gothic horror, perhaps some of the more, romantic traipses into horror tropes, for example. Now, with Greyhawk, I guess in a way it is quite distinct from the high fantasy superhero like antics you find with high powered magics in the Forgotten Realms. Greyhawk is, in my opinion, more stripped down, and to echo Eric, it is more about a process of discovery, of building your own narrative as you walk into these various worlds with their own politics, their own geological wonders. And at the very same time, you are also a part of a cog of a wheel within wheel of stories unfolding in the background. You may not necessarily be an active part of it yet, but you can potentially trigger something that leads to that ongoing cog mechanism. Whereas I think in the Forgotten Realms, a lot of that is pretty much, I guess, bedded down and static in a way that there is a very detailed and lush lore and history of lore in that setting, whereas with Greyhawk, you have more room to expand, more room to figure out how the tensions between neighboring counties and nations can create more opportunities to make an impact as an individual.
That's wonderful. One of the things I've always said is that Gygax's writing, especially in the original gold box of the folio, is almost Hemingway-esque, right? Because he takes one paragraph to describe an entire kingdom, and just in that single paragraph, you get so many things that just spark your imagination as a game master, right? It's just one little throwaway, not even a sentence, just a phrase, and that can inspire an entire adventure. I loved that about that. So I think that speaks to what you're talking about there. And Amanda, what you were talking about with the movies that we all grew up with, that's our Appendix N, right? It's in a lot of ways because so many of us who grew up in the 70s and the 80s, we consumed so many of those fantasy movies that came out because of Dungeons and Dragons, that it influenced what our conception of what fantasy was like. We have Conan the Barbarian and Hawk the Slayer and all those other things that we've talked about in the Dark Crystal and Labyrinth and so forth. It really informs what fantasy feels like to us. So you're when you talk about the old the novels that are in Appendix N, the Fafhrd the Grey Mouser and so forth, that was for Gary's generation, and then my generation grew up much more on the films that came out of that. But that's terrific. And I just want to. There was a where is it here? There was a comment that came up. Let me. Here we go. So interesting. I didn't really get the campy tidbits back in the day. I always saw Greyhawk as the more serious realm. And I think that Gary would find that very humorous, because he was so fond of his puns, and half of the kingdom seemed to be named after him or his friends, and magic items and everything. The Ring of Gax and so forth. It's all stems from that original campaign that he had. So I just if you wanted to expand a little bit on the funnier side of Greyhawk, because like Sebastian says, people view it as a little more grim, and I think it can be, especially when you get into the Greyhawk Wars and the From the Ashes era. But there is that element of fun to it, and I was wondering if you could expand on that a little bit.
Well, the obvious could be the appendix, or the little side quests that he wrote in for the Castle Greyhawk, which was the Alice in Wonderland inspired adventures. So he's quite willing to grab that and pull it in. And he has, or if you go to Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, where the adventure ends with the party being thrown out the cargo door and then the robots heave a bullet at you. I found that wildly humorous, of like, incoming bullet! Boom! You have one round to do something. Make it count. And there's lots of the names, as you said, with like Drawmage, people's names backwards. The fact that the city of Greyhawk is modeled after mobster Chicago brings me great amusement. Because it was the Black Hawk hockey team from Chicago. You just have to change the color slightly, and now you have the name of the town. And it carries through, like with the Weisshund, who are the servant dogs of Cuthbert. And Cuthbert is another example of the humor, where you were going to pound round corners straight. Round corners straight.
Show the folly of error to the unbeliever. Yeah.
Weaver. The hardest of heads can meet the stoutest of cudgels. If you go through the listing of it when we first got back, it's like, wow, this guy he was having fun when he wrote this up. And so, but there are dark and dangerous spots, and especially the temple, when Gary knew when to turn it on and when to turn it off, when there was time for humor and when things are going to get bad.
And the temple's a very good example, because obviously he didn't write it. He handed off his notes to Frank Messer, and Frank had to finish it up. And I'm wondering,
Frank was his Hamilton to George Washington.
Yeah, exactly. And I wonder, how deeply have you dug into the lore of the process of the creation of the module that was eventually published? In terms of that handover, and do you have, because obviously the Gygax estate has loosened up a lot, and they're allowing things to be published and so forth. You, as being official representatives of WotC and the campaign setting, have you had access to any of those notes, to the actual notes that got handed over, or do you have any like secret info that you're working off of, or are you just working off of the published stuff? And if so, how are you handling the fact that there was that process that was quite irregular?
Quite irregular could kind of describe early TSR from the start to the end.
Yes.
It was like they were building an airplane in the middle of flight, because they had no idea what they had done until it happened around them. But we have no special notes. I have everything that was published. Your channel has been a resource. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
Greyhawk Online has been a resource for me. Reading all the old adventures, I really like. I can download them now as PDFs, so I can do Control F to hunt for things.
Yes.
Thank God. Because they did not invent subheaders until like 1980 something. So sometimes you're like going through blocks of text to find what you need. So I grabbed anything I could. And Amanda helped me in the search, and we were like sharing resources. We have a whole resource file that anytime we see something, and it gets put into our reference file.
Are you familiar with the Encyclopedia Greyhawkiana?
Probably.
It's a big Excel file that lists every name of everything that appeared in every product, and it gives you the
Yes!
references.
But I didn't. I was familiar with it back when I was a Triad of Living Greyhawk.
Yeah.
And it has not been. I haven't really updated it. I hope it has been updated. Since then.
It's been updated, but not in the last 10 years or so. But I still find it absolutely invaluable. That's like my secret weapon, because people will message me on Facebook and ask me some obscure question, and I'll just bring that up. There's all the references, and there's your answer.
But we had long discussions on what to do about Fraggle. Like, what alignment is it?
Yeah, that was. He actually said that in Oerth Journal that it was a typo, and it's supposed to be. He changed the alignment of it because there was this big interview in like Oerth Journal 3 or 4 or something, and that was one of the many questions that he answered.
That was one of our discussions also, because we were like, well, do we have to go with clarification, or would it be more fun to go with the typo being true?
All right. Well, that compels me to ask this about Thrommel, because obviously in Return to the Temple of Elemental Evil, which was published, Thrommel is not just disguised as a vampire; he's really a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
I speak upon this because this is a bone of contention a lot of Greyhawk fans have with that particular module.
Well, our only canon is what comes in the 2024 DMG. That is the canon that we're starting with. And he's barely mentioned in that. So we now have the Apocrypha.
Okay. I'm stealing that. That's
now. Whenever I say these things, the way I look at Legends of Greyhawk is we're a giant home game. We have about all the authority to determine what goes on in Greyhawk as any other DM running this campaign anywhere in the country or the world. If they go a different direction with it, theirs is just as valid as what we do. We're not determining canon. In fact, I delight in being uncanon. So we can go with what has gone before, with him being disguised in the temple as a vampire, or we could go with Return to the Temple of Elemental Evil, where he actually is a vampire, or we can surprise the players and do something totally different.
Were I in your position, that's the route I would take.
Yep. Well, I think players who partook in the Gen Con adventures are anticipating a different direction.
Right.
And I think Eric and Amanda have done an amazing job with it, which premieres at Winter Fantasy in 2 weeks.
That's exactly where I'm leading with this, because I know you guys have a big thing coming up. So let's speak the words. Let's make the let's let everybody know what's going on here. What's happening with the new thing that's happening? What's the new adventure or region or whatever? This is the moment. Make the announcements.
So we have a big event coming up called Winter Fantasy, which I believe starts February the 5th through the 8th in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And we have the High Folk and Domain of Greyhawk adventures we talked about last time are running there as well. But then we have New Ferrand adventures and a Castle Greyhawk adventure. So I'll turn it over to Shu. Did you want to talk a little bit about Castle Greyhawk and get people hyped?
Oh, please. This is what I've been waiting for.
Okay, well, Castle Greyhawk has been a long-kept secret for a very long period of time. Now, initially, it was, so this region that I'm responsible for was meant to be a mystery and was meant to change and shift every year or, story arc season or something. But because we have had a rescheduling in terms of where certain things can premiere, we've decided to have Castle Greyhawk come about in Winter Fantasy. And with it has been decided sometime later in 2025 to have Castle Greyhawk premiere as a challenge adventure to live up to its, I guess, fame as a place where everyone goes to seek fame, fortune, and unfortunately die at some stage. So it is meant to be a tad more difficult than your ordinary adventure, but along with it, it's also going to show little bits and pieces of Greyhawk history and lore. And in a way, it will be a bit of the same but different approach that we're using to portray Castle Greyhawk. Yes, there'll be elements of it that are recognizable to people who are used to, expeditions to the ruins of Greyhawk, for example. But we'll add a different twist to it to also make it more welcoming for people who are new to Greyhawk, and to also add something different to make it more exciting, spicy, perhaps. Who knows?
I mean, obviously the whole history of the Castle Greyhawk is we could spend an entire evening talking about just that. But I'm curious to, I mean, obviously I don't want to spoil anything because people are going to be playing it. And before I go on, Winter Fantasy is a convention that happens in Fort Wayne. It's happening February 4th through 8th. So if you're anywhere around there, go there. If I had had inside information, I might just be going out there myself, but I didn't. Thank you very much. But
you can make it down here. I'll give you a ride. We leave on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm gonna drive to Virginia to go to Indiana. That's
kind of
that's happening. Like I've got that many PTO days. But I would love to hear how your version of the castle diverges from the published Greyhawk Ruins, which of course is different than Gary's Greyhawk Castle, which is different than Castle Greyhawk, the fun mod, the parody module, which is different than what Trollord Games is doing with Castle Zagging. I mean, I've done whole videos on this. It's very complex, but I would love to hear how your interpretation of Castle Greyhawk varies from every other interpretation that's out there. Obviously, I don't expect specifics, this is on this level, or we're doing the snake fountain or whatever. But what's the philosophy behind the to make it your own, as opposed to just being, this is Greyhawk Ruins in 5e?
Okay, right. So the aim of Castle Greyhawk in Legends of Greyhawk isn't necessarily to repeat stuff that is already published, because what's the point of regurgitating and just porting over an adventure that's been done before and just reproducing something that people will know how to kind of like metagame and complete? There's no fun and excitement there. I mean, you want something new and refreshing, right? And something different. Now, with respect to Castle Zaggig and whatever other publishers have done, we cannot go down a direction that's not WotC IP. We can only deal with WotC IP and what's in the DMG from the 2024-25 rules. So that's it, because we're going all the way back to the years after the Battle of Emerald Meadows. We have a lot of scope to play around with. And while there are homages to expeditions to the ruins of Greyhawk, Greyhawk ruins, and of course WG7. That's it, though. It's not going to go down the direction of WG7. I promise you that. But we acknowledge that all of these exist. And Castle Greyhawk is still going to be the fun, sandboxy dungeon crawls you're all familiar with, and that people who are keen in, Legends of Greyhawk want to explore. It's there to bring that kind of like, old school dungeon crawl exploration combat feel to it. But at the same time, we want to make every visit to Castle Greyhawk distinct and interesting. When we talk about a living campaign and a living dungeon, we are talking exactly about the same thing. It's a living mega dungeon. Mm-hmm. The castle has a mind of its own. It's influenced by Zaggig's magic. Stuff can happen, things you'd never expect. Dungeons can change. There are creatures and civilizations living in there. They have their own motives, they have their own needs. they will do whatever. You interact with them, there's an impact. Your choices define what happens to you. And because this is organized play, unfortunately, we cannot make things terribly, expensive. Like the dungeons within Castle Greyhawk are, sprawling, right? They go everywhere and they extend, several feet, hundreds of thousands of feet downwards and to
And
the
there's
sides.
side levels. And,
Yes, and even the castles themselves and the surface ruins, they've got stuff in there. So unfortunately, we have to constrain all of that stuff to what we can fit in 3 hours. So in many cases, the sandboxes will be mini sandboxes and they're smaller, shorter adventures. So unfortunately, they will be short. However, we do have options to expand those outside of convention slots should you wish to go down that area. I mean, we do have like optional encounters, so to speak. But again, I mean, in a convention slot, they're going to be super concise. So they're going to be somewhat funneled down to what gets players from point A, B, and C to the end. That said, though, once these are available for home play, and if you do run for home play, you have every liberty to explore every nook and cranny in the castle and make it different from convention play with the addition of bonus encounters.
Okay, I just have to bring up a comment that just came in. I'm even more hyped to play Castle Greyhawk at Winter Fantasy now. That's what you said is just yes. I love what you said about that. And you might know I have my own Castle Greyhawk homage, Castle Mad Archmage, and I play it. I run it at conventions all the time, and it's very. I'm because I have my own and I do run it my own at conventions. I'm very interested in what you said about having a smaller subset of your Castle Greyhawk and because there's like you want to get to the end when you're running these Castle Greyhawk sessions. Is there a specific mission or objective, or is it just literally a sandbox and you're on the level you're on level 5 and go and whatever you find how are you how directed is the scenario that you're or scenarios that you're doing? Not specifics again, but just the general philosophy. Is there an objective, or is it just find whatever you can find?
As with convention adventures, there would be an objective keyed into the adventure. So apologies, there's someone doing some construction work outside.
Yeah,
so
it sounds like somebody's got a reciprocating saw in the background. Yeah, but go anyway. We'll hear around it.
So yes, there will be a mission, there will be an objective. There are, however, several adventure hooks you can use and are recommended or suggested for why people might come to Castle Greyhawk other than, oh yeah, I want to be this cool treasure hunter and get cool stuff, right, and explore cool dungeons. But there are hooks to explain why you might be here. It might just be, oh, hey, there's this problem and it's affecting, the neighboring areas. We need you to resolve it because it seems to be coming from Castle Greyhawk. Or, hey, I need you to go down to Castle Greyhawk and bring something up for me, and I'm this rich noble. I'm going to pay you a heap load of money for that. Something as simple as that. Not that it's going to happen, but it's just an example to, kind of like throw in a reason as to why you, an adventurer, might want to go there beyond just curiosity or, I just want to, go down there and get rich.
Okay, that's a really good, interesting take on it. It's the 180-degree opposite of what I do, but I love to hear it anyway because I can absolutely see that as you go into the dungeon because you have a specific objective and you want to finish it. That's wonderful. So what's coming after? What's the big picture for what's happening in your corner of Legends of Greyhawk in 2026? Because Winter Fantasy is what, 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, it's 2 weeks from now. After Winter Fantasy, we'll have another set of High Folk adventures on VDDW in May, and then we have more Ferrand adventures happening in at Origins, and then we have more Domain of Greyhawk at Gen Con. And between those, we'll have a few surprises announced that we can't talk about right now.
I know the feeling.
I don't know if we want to give Eric and Amanda a chance to talk about their premiere coming out at Winter Fantasy, though.
Do, please do.
Do you want to take the lead on this one, Amanda? Or would you rather I do it? Up to you.
Nope. There you go.
There we go. I am very comfortable with having you take the lead, as you are the lead, but I make an excellent lieutenant. I am happy to support you.
I vote for the lieutenant.
What's that?
I vote for the lieutenant.
All right, then.
Oh.
Something
All
that
right,
was
Lieutenant, your turn in charge.
absolutely something that was really important to me walking into this collaboration and looking at these adventures was making sure that we weren't either leaving our long-standing players behind or out, but also making sure that we are highlighting newer voices within the setting, and making sure that this can be a place that a new player isn't going to walk in and feel like they've missed something, or like they're walking into somebody else's inside joke, or somebody else's like club that had been there, and that they feel kind of maybe like they have been missing out for 50 years or so. I really relished the opportunity to be a part of making sure that our writers especially were faces that you at least to some extent were faces that had not written in Greyhawk before, but had an excellent body of work and really understood what we were going for with this specific trilogy, which I think is brilliant. Eric did a spectacular job setting up a really interesting story with a very different take from what the original Elemental Evil drive was. And I would love for Eric to actually pick up from there.
All right. So when I was reading through all the T14, I had all the elements, all the ingredients on the table. And I looked at them and was like, okay, what dish could we cook up with these? How can we put them together in such a way that will be familiar, but at the same time, completely different? So that when people who had played the earlier adventures would not feel all the beats. They would not be like, oh yeah, I've already gone through this floor. There's going to be this thing around the corner. But at the same time, we'll be like, this place is familiar for some reason. A lot of the names are being repeated. A lot of the themes going through the storylines are repeated, but they're put together in new and different ways to keep players on their toes, so that newer players who have joined in 5th edition aren't left in the cold, but the players who have started back in 1st edition are also surprised and entertained. And since we are doing the Temple of Elemental Evil, is our first big plot arc. We started that at MagicCon with Hamlet and Nuln, and then we had a special where we went back in time and did a recreation of the Battle of Emerald Meadows, which helped us to pick out our big bad for the all of our upcoming stories. But I wanted to continue going into the temple. And I wanted to give the players the feel of what it was like to go through that giant mega dungeon in a convention experience, which has a different feel than Castle Greyhawk because it is one imposing edifice with lots of factions within it. And I wanted to explore the factions within the Temple of Elemental Evil.
The factions are key to Temple of Elemental Evil. They are literally... They make the dungeon.
That would be another place where we had a lot of discussion. And I want to thank you for another one of your videos of like, what exactly is the Eye of Fire? I found 3 different descriptions.
I got it so in the weeds on that one, yeah.
I had to look at because you, on one of your placards you put up for one of your YouTube videos, actually showed what I think is the correct Eye of Fire.
The triangle, right? But it's
But it
different.
doesn't come from the angles; it comes from the
Right, exactly, and it matters because it. Oh, and feel free to use that. By the way, I hereby give you permission to use my theory about the inversion of the thing, and as
but the Eye of Fire as a burning eye also shows up.
Yeah,
and we're having that come out as part of the factions of the temple itself. And so this one,
I have to interject because it's me, and that's what I do. I need to show you a select a tab. Oh yeah, I run a fantasy miniatures game, war game, and it should be on right now. There it is. I run a miniatures war game, and last year it's set in Greyhawk. This is the Battle of Emerald Meadows.
Ooh.
Right. It's a 15 millimeter minis game, and I've run it at a bunch of conventions based on all the different things that are there. I thought you'd get a kick out of seeing it on the table where there's orcs, and if the orcs see the elves, they charge, and right in the middle there, the red and blue things, if you can see them, those are obviously the the Furionian Knights.
Furiani!
Yeah. So I just thought you'd get a kick out of seeing this. I actually run the Battle of Emerald Meadows at conventions.
But this is if you can look at our adventure titles, they give some pretty good clues as to what's happening. We have Rescue from the Elemental Ruins, then Deceit within the Elemental Cults, and then finally Trapped Beneath the Elemental Eye.
Mm.
And then the fourth one is our special, which is titled All for the Paladin Prince.
I know what that's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have half the idea.
I wish I could be at Winter Fantasy to play this. I wish you guys would run these at more conventions.
We will.
Just for my own personal, selfish interest.
This will be at Page next year
because there's a bunch of not tiny but not Page level, 3,000 people regional conventions. There's Total Con. There's a bunch of things out there. I would love to see this stuff run at those conventions, so a lot more people could get involved in this. And I realize that's not
I do not have any inside information because that's above my pay grade, but yeah. I would, if I was going to be putting this together, I would kind of view it as the way movie theaters are put out. So when you first come out with a movie, it's in the big run movie theaters, and then it moves to the smaller ones, and then it moves to the budget ones. Then eventually it's released on streaming, and then it's put on little TVs on the back of airplane seats.
Which brings up this comment that came in. Will the published adventures be made public after they are con debuted?
They will start going for sale. My understanding is it will be late Q1 or early Q2 of this year that you see the first 3 adventures at least hit one of the Wizards of the Coast platforms.
Please do let me know when that happens, Savannah, and I will
absolutely.
I will plug it to the heavens when that happens.
You won't be able to shut us up.
Yeah, no. Put a quarter in me, and you got to listen to the whole song. I will not shut up about Greyhawk.
Nickelodeon, put another nickel in.
I will say you can follow all of our news at legendsofgreyhawk.com. We have the upcoming conventions there, but also groups who want to run these adventures at conventions can actually request it through Wizards of the Coast.
The conventions can request it?
Yes, or groups running at conventions. I don't have the exact link on hand, but it's the same process that you request AL adventures. Only you specify legend.
For those who don't know what, the acronyms throw people off sometimes because most of my viewers don't know from 5e.
Yeah.
I know MagFest had the MagicCon adventures, the first 2. And while it's a larger convention, it's only a sliver dedicated to TTRPGs, and a sliver of that is dedicated to these Legends of Greyhawks. So I don't think there's a size requirement for the adventures if you for your convention if you
But
request.
it's not the kind of thing like they're at game stores and stuff like that. It's not down to that level. Like Adventures.
How do they determine this for Adventures League?
Yeah,
it'll be the same process.
But
I just looked it up here. It's on the wizards.com site requesting D&D convention support.
Oh, there you go. That's very cool because obviously the old Living Greyhawk stuff is its own continuity. It's like its own parallel timeline thing, but it's still really nice to have all that stuff, especially the official stuff like the Greyhawk Ruins, which were like what do they call it, the core something core adventures or something. It's nice to have as a fan and as an obsessive completist. It's really nice to have all that stuff. So I would love to be able to have your stuff too. Eric, I got to ask you one other very nerdy specific question about
I like those.
Elemental God and Tharsden. You know what the question is. All I have to do is say those two names.
We're speaking of the unspeakable now.
Hopefully. I mean, it was, to my mind, it was just such an abomination that they did that in Return of the Temple of Elemental Evil. I think it completely undermined many things. It cheapened things in a way that's just awful. And I was wondering how you were handling that. No pressure.
I believe we that was the result from Battle of Emerald Meadows. Is that correct, Savannah? Is the answer to this question?
That of our big bad in the background?
Yes.
Yes, that was decided by the players who ran through the Battle of Emerald Meadows.
I'm going to be greatly disappointed by the answer, aren't I?
Yes.
Dude.
I am the harbinger of your disappointment.
I'm shutting down the live stream now.
I shall bring the cart of woe to your door and
raining on my parade
slides out from your doorstep. Whoa.
I will say our big bad behind the scenes is not the only villain, right? He's in the background pulling some strings.
As long as they're not the same thing, because that's what really bugged me about that. And was that the Elder Elemental God isn't really just his own thing. He's just a facet of Tharsden, and that irked me because I like it when things are more messy and more complicated, and having everything roll up to the same big bad is just lazy, in my opinion. I'm not casting any shade on you guys. I'm talking about the original, the published Return to the Temple module. But
I'm a big fan of the wheels within wheels method that we in Gygax explored with the Giant series.
Right, so, exactly. In fact, I wanted to make that point earlier when you mentioned that, is that there's always a villain behind the villain. But that's different than saying, oh, that's not the villain. He's really this guy. I think
the interworking of the cult is a very privileged information, my friend. The ultimate bad guy will be Tharsden because that was decided by the players. Now, how many layers of medieval management we have between there and between party player and Tharsden?
No, that's okay. I can respect. If the Elder Elemental God is its own thing, and it's being, there's puppet masters, and ultimately it's Tharsden, and of course behind that it has to be Asmodeus because Asmodeus is behind everything. That's just how D&D works.
Who told him?
But having it, so many of the hardcore fans hate the idea that the Elder Elemental God doesn't exist. It's really Tharsden. That's lazy to me. It's just as a fan, as a designer myself, it's lazy. And I'm glad you guys are not doing that literally.
I can understand that that instinct because I feel the same way about everything. That everyone is Tasha. Tasha is everyone.
Oh, for the God. Or
I saw a big
Vecna,
red button and I had to push it. Push.
or Vecna. Everything's Vecna because
Vecna.
Stranger Things. Yeah.
I can understand that. Amanda has been quite the champion of Zuckboy, I must say.
You mean my wife?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
The Mushroom Queen is going to get quite the upgrade.
That's great. I love that because have you? I probably don't need to ask this question, but I must. You've read the Gary Gygax novels, the Gord the Rogue stuff.
A long time ago.
Where Zookboy is actually a character in the books.
Yes.
I was surprised that showed up, but yes. Say, oh, we're talking to demon lords now. Okay.
Well, I loved that. I loved that whole section of those novels where we got to see the inner workings, and Ayuz is actually being bullied by his mother and his girlfriend. I mean, I thought that was just fantastic stuff. It goes back to the humorous part that you were talking about. Where Gygax had some women issues, but no way to get around that.
Breathe, Eric, breathe.
I've taken him out.
You're not allowed to kill my lead designers.
Oh, dude, take the EpiPen.
Oh, that con crud is all coming up now.
But I mean, just seeing those, I loved that interaction, and you had Vuron and Grazd and so forth. I loved those scenes because it adds so much of the backstory of what's going on that the players, from if you're stepping back into Gord's point of view, he's not aware of any of that happening, but we as the reader or we as the DM know all this stuff that's going on in the background. And
kind of like the Dark Friends socials and the Robert Jordan Wheel of Time books.
I will take your word for that. I have never read it.
Oh, yeah, a bunch of bad guys occasionally get together and talk their evil plans.
Yeah, it's one of the great lacunae in my reading thing. I've read every ElfQuest comic book that there is, but there's certain things that everybody's read that I've not.
Every ElfQuest? That's a lifestyle choice, my friend.
Dude,
a lot of ElfQuest.
I should have worn my ElfQuest shirt. I've got the whole collection. My son went to New York Comic Con last fall and actually got Wendy and Richard Pini to autograph my first collection of the colorized was it Starburst, Star something, the collection of the first comics. So yeah, I'm an old. There were many years that every one of my homebrew campaigns had the Holt in it. Yes,
man, they are national treasures.
Oh,
I love the Peonies. They've done incredible work with their fiercely independent comic book through decades.
Well, we're talking about our Appendix N. That's part of Appendix N for now. Because they had such an influence on fantasy in their time. I don't want to go too down the rabbit hole because we're talking about Greyhawk, but I think things like that have really added to the fantasy corpus that a lot of people nowadays just take for granted. And
mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's but let's see, where was I? So yeah, Zuckboy.
Oh yeah,
going to be fun. I can't wait to see what Shu puts together with all of the Castle Greyhawk shenanigans.
I want to hear more of these shenanigans. Shenanigans, you say?
Well, each adventure in Castle Greyhawk is, I guess, a small vignette or a snippet of, a small section of each part of this large mega dungeon that is Castle Greyhawk. So, for example, the one coming up in Winter Fantasy, For Whom the Bell Tolls, is set in the Tower of War, and you get to see a little bit of the surface runes and what lies beneath. I mean, you're not going to see everything, it's impossible to explore all the dungeons and the levels beneath the Tower of War, right? So
Not in 3 hours, no.
no, not in 3 hours, no. But like, it's just pretty much a taste of what you might find in there. There's lots more depending on, we don't really know the longevity of, I would guess, the region at this stage and whether my region would shift across the years. But should there be an opportunity to continue more adventures, we will reveal more levels, etc. Right? And then, yeah. So all I can say is that we've got an awesome writer for whom the bell tolls, ex-Wizards employee Ron Lundeen. He knows Greyhawk in and out, and he's made this, a passion project that brims with, his knowledge and love for Castle Greyhawk. So there will be shenanigans as what adventurers would do and what the castle itself would do to these adventurers, and of course what the denizens of the castle grounds and the dungeons would do to these adventurers as well. So it's an invitation for the GM to be playful and adventurous as well. I mean, you don't go in there just to be super cautious because there are things inviting you to interact with the rest of the castle.
Sorry,
and it doesn't end if you die. No.
Oh, it doesn't end if you die.
No, it doesn't end if you die.
I'm assuming you cannot elaborate on that because that's a fascinating statement.
I don't know anything about it, but I'll make up stories.
Subject to a few things in place, right? I mean, we are playing with organized play rules, and of course, if you totally exhaust your options on resurrection, too bad, you die. But there are ways to extend the adventure beyond, oh crap, I died in part one. What the heck am I going to do now?
Well, that was always the problem. I mean, and that takes us back to the whole storytelling, exploration or discovery versus storytelling thing. Is the whole thing that happened in Dragonlance. I mean, if you're in DL1, the original Dragonlance modules, and you're playing Raceland, and Raceland dies, he comes back to life in DL2. So, you have that kind of thing. It's like people, when you have that sort of thing where if I die here, I'm just going to come back to life. It almost makes the stakes lower. So how does that work in that context? Because if I'm Raceland and I can be reckless because I know I have to come back in DL2. How does that work in what you're talking about here, where it's a convention thing, it's a living campaign, but how does that work?
Shu is speaking of a specific mechanic that will be special to Castle Greyhawk to keep people going to the end of the adventure before they have to either accept their death or I
know where
pay
you're going
for
with
the painful process of resurrection. But especially when someone has paid to be at the table, we don't want them to die half an hour in because it's a challenge event and then have to sit there for the remaining of the session. And I don't think we want to spoil what the gimmick is going to be.
No, I wouldn't ask you to. That's
But I think Shu's come up with a brilliant idea that will be very, very fun for people.
Excellent. What I did in my Castle of Mad Archmage is there's a table that if somebody dies in the castle dungeons, they can come back as an undead. Not that they're actually, the player will run them, but if somebody dies and you keep the body with you in the dungeons, it's going to be a ghoul or something later on because of the weird energies of the dungeon. And Agile Monk, who is one of my old time supporters, is saying this is a great live stream and amazing guests, and particularly loves Savannah. So take that as you will. So okay, so what's happening? We're getting towards time here. We don't have but what do you want us to know about what's happening for the rest of the year or going forward? What's coming up that you want to tease or let everybody know what's going on?
The big thing is Winter Fantasy will have more Legends of Greyhawk than any other convention this year. So that's a big one. But also just a reminder that this is a living, breathing campaign. So partaking in it at conventions is the only way to help shape this story. Especially our big events like Crown of Conspiracy at Gen Con, those, or the Emerdy Meadows Vote for the Big Bad, those actions carry forward and shape how we write and develop the coming adventures. So if you're interested, if you want to get on board, hop onto the legendsofgreyhawk.com website. There's a bar there with all of our upcoming shows. All of our events run through the VDDWs as well, which is the monthly online weekend that you can partake in from anywhere. So we try and make it very accessible for you to jump on board, and I hope people will join us.
Wonderful. Anybody else you want to chime in with some thoughts of things that might have been sparked by our conversation?
Yes, I would.
I think
you
you
go first,
would.
Amanda.
Just on that
same. Say the same thing.
We might be saying the same thing. Just to slightly add to what Savannah just mentioned, I am so delighted for all of the possibilities that are going to result from the special that we're premiering at Winter Fantasy this time. Emerdy Meadows was very cool and presented some really neat choices. There are the choices that you're going to have to make for All for the Paladin Prince are going to lead to very different story outcomes based on the choices that you make and the how things shake out, shall we say. And we've been soft talking about some of those possibilities, but we really can't start writing until until we have the players' feedback, because what you guys all do is going to dramatically impact where we can go next. And I'm so excited to see what you do.
That was actually exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is how a lot of our meetings go. But if you also are a long-term Greyhawk fan, I have buried so many Easter eggs for you in these adventures. And certain people there's going to be some people who are the newer players who are like, oh, that's kind of cool. And there's going to be the older players who've been around for a bit. Like,
people like me is going to go, squee! Yeah.
Oh, I hope so. And I think I know exactly where it's going to happen.
Now, do you, sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to not rob you of your thunder.
Thunder from down under.
Well, sorry. Remind me, what exactly would you like me to talk
What do you want to tell the viewers about what's coming around?
All right, we spoke of For Whom the Bell Tolls, which is the first Castle Greyhawk adventure to premiere at Winter Fantasy. Yes, it is deadlier than your usual adventure, but that doesn't prevent you from thinking out of the box and doing interesting things as a player, as a character, exploring something new, something cool, something dark, dangerous, and potentially very interesting. Now, Savannah, can I talk about what's to come after that? Or
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. And the second adventure to come after For Whom the Bell Tolls is something that would be quite interesting to everyone who loves Castle Greyhawk. It is an adventure that will feature something, well, let's just say it is heavily inspired by Zagig, let's put it this way. I'm not going to say too much about it right now, but it will feature interesting characters related to Zagig, and it will also feature the talents of Ashley Warren, another talented writer who we've recruited to work on Legends of Greyhawk. It will premiere sometime in, I believe,
it'll be
Q2 2026.
April VDDW is my understanding.
Yeah, all right. So it will premiere online. It's online only special for the Castle Greyhawk line of adventures. And it is going to show you a more playful and humorous side of Castle Greyhawk.
Given that Zagig's involved, that's very appropriate. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like, you won't see Zagig directly, but his legacy will be strongly reflected in that adventure.
I love that. And we do have a question that is germane. I think we covered this before, but loves Castle Greyhawk. The question is, do you mean WG7? I think we've already established that the answer is no. They're using Castle Greyhawk in the more generic sense, but it almost sounds like there might be one or two little things from that module that creep in hither and yon. But no, they're talking about the Castle Greyhawk in the generic sense of the term, based mainly on the Greyhawk ruins and Expedition to Greyhawk ruins. Correct me if I'm wrong, Shu, please.
Oh, no, you're spot on over there. Although, because we're trying to make sure certain pieces of history and lore would be consistent with what's in the DMG of this year, and possibly some of the more established and later forms of Greyhawk that's kind of like uniform and, you know, more agreed on throughout more publications. I would say that a lot of inspiration for the Castle Greyhawk and Legends of Greyhawk would come from Ruins to the Expedition to the Ruins of Greyhawk, that 3.5 E supplement.
Very cool. All right. Anybody have any last words before we? We've been yammering on for an hour, and I got to work tomorrow. But anybody else have anything? While
I would just like to add that the team here really loves Greyhawk.
I can tell that.
From Dave Christ, who's the bald man himself, cut his teeth on Greyhawk. He was deeply involved in living Greyhawk. He dreamed up Legends of Greyhawk to begin with as his own personal campaign that he was working, and then that has blossomed into this program that Wizards is administrating. But we are huge fans of the setting, and we want to give an incredible experience to as many players as we can.
And for the record, I have asked the other two companies who are doing Legends of Greyhawk to come on. They've expressed interest, but it's just never materialized. And now you guys have lapped them because you've been on twice. So the invitation remains. I want to have all three of you guys all talking about all the really cool Greyhawk-y stuff that you guys are doing. I'm willing to do this as long as you're doing it. But if nobody, we got a deep lore bit of a question here. Are we going to see Earth, and Yarth show up at any point? These are all from the Gygax novels and from the Choose Your Own Adventure stuff with Sagard the Barbarian and so forth. Is that
that second one is kind of suspect?
I don't know if anyone wants to go there.
There was a module. There was an adventure in Dragon Magazine where people went into modern day London, and back in the 80s, that did happen.
Isn't that also the one where Gygax had a group fall through a portal and fought like World War II German?
The Jagged Panthers or something. Yeah. No, it was Dragons and Panzerfausts. That's the thing. But what about things like Odd Alley and so forth, where there's we have the portals to other alternate dimensions and all other worlds and stuff like that? I mean, it almost seems like it's a bit premature to talk about doing such things that are so, you've got enough to cover in Greyhawk itself. But my gods, I would love to see an Odd Alley thing. Oh my God, it would be awesome.
I won't say it's a never, but it's definitely not in our immediate cards. Just because there's so much to explore in each realm that we're shaping right now.
Right.
We wouldn't want to remove the focus when we're still in the midst of early
absolutely
T1 to T2.
You come back in 5 or 10 years and you might be talking about Odd Alley.
Yes.
Okay, but here's another question which I wanted to say. Where is it here? there was a question, and it's now disappeared from the Dealy Bob.
Make one up.
Wait a minute. No, this is
Who's
this
your
is a really
favorite
great
member of the Circle of Eight?
yeah, oh God. Yeah, actually at Page, Eric Mona ran Vecna Dies, which was a take on, remember the Vecna Lives adventure, and it has that first encounter where it's all just so scripted. He took out the script and just had them go. Without saying that, Vecna automatically wins initiative, and he took all that out and just had a straight battle, and the Circle of Eight pasted Vecna every time. It was amazing. Oh man, no, this is bugging me because it was a really great question that. Anyway, all right, I can't find it, so it'll just have to wait until the next time you guys are on. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate you guys coming on. This has been a hoot. Everybody who's watching, please do check out their stuff. Go on their website, go to their convention events. This is buy their stuff when it's eventually published. I know I will. Thank you, Agile Monk, again. There we go. Storm, Geschütz, and Sorcery. That's the one I was thinking of from Best of Dragon #1. Thank you all so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Last words, or we're out. Anybody, go.
I say once again, legendsofgreyhawk.com. You can find everything you need there to get onboarded.
Excellent. All right. Thank you all so much. And everybody, have a great night. Stay safe if you're caught in the snow like I am. And talk to y'all later.